Welcome back to Golden Woodworks. My name's Brent. So this is what we've got going on today. We're going to make two radiator covers. They're going to be made out of red oak. They're going to have some metal mesh. This is the mesh here. It's a nice brass material. Aluminum's got a cool pattern in it. We're going with plywood because I was a little nervous about doing solid wood out of the whole thing just because it's going to have heat constantly from one side. So I didn't want to worry about any warping or anything like that. And this will be finished all the way around, so ideally there wouldn't be any movement or anything, but hardwood made me a little nervous, so there will be some hardwood, but the majority of it will be plywood. The whole thing will be stained a darker color to match the existing trim. I'll try one of these stains here. After I cut up all of these pieces, I'll make a sample out of any scraps I have and take them over there and see how well I did. Another reason for the plywood is it'll be a little lighter than if I did it all out of solid oak. That way, when it comes time to move these or store them away, you don't have any problems and you can carry them by yourself almost. So I want to get 16-inch top depths out of this, so I'll start with those two pieces and then we'll move on to cutting the 3 to 4 inch rips. Alright, I've got my 16-inch tops cut out. They're going to end up being 71.5 long, so somewhere around here long, so I can use the rest of this for the base if I need to. Hopefully I can get all of the pieces out of the third piece here. I'm just going to rip these into 4 inches, I think, 3.5 to 4. I need to cross-cut these now. I'm going to take my track apart, but before I do that, I want to rip a straight edge on the piece of red oak here before I disassemble my track. This is the same thickness as my plywood, so I could use the plywood as a support for my track. Big brain. Okay, I've got my stiles and rails all ripped down, so this will be the bottom one. This is 4.5. I just wanted it to be a little bit taller because it'll also have a baseboard that wraps around. So I wanted some of it to still stick up a little bit. And then these will just be the vertical pieces that divide the mesh material. So I'm realizing a mistake I made. As I was cutting my 4.5 inch tall pieces for the bottom, I only cut one, and obviously I'm making 2 boxes. And then I started ripping all the narrow strips to 3 inches. So therefore, out of this one sheet, I can't get another piece like this. Luckily, I have another piece here that I can definitely get that out of. So, disaster averted. I don't have to buy another full sheet of plywood just to get 4 inches out of it, so always keep your scraps, I guess. So now I want to get all of my 3-inch pieces cut to 20 inches because that's the clearance I need for the radiator and the windowsill. Alright, so a lot of cutting just took place actually. I've got these pieces cut for my front to back on the sides. All of these pieces here are my vertical pieces all the way across, and then these pieces here are for my linear pieces that will run top and bottom on both boxes. So I did a lot of cutting and no filming, but I had to think about a lot of the links, so I didn't want to mess it up. Alright, now I want to take 4 of these pieces and I want to cut a miter along one of the edges for my outside corner. I could do just a butt joint and then do a corner trim or something, but it just doesn't look as good. So the look I'm going for here is just a clean miter up the edge, and then it'll have the baseboard that wraps around the bottom. And I think that'll be a lot better look. All right, there we go. Now I'll just glue these up. I think right now, I think it'll be easier to do it now versus when I have the longer pieces put on there. I really can't count. I need to do that 4 more times because these only make up for one of the boxes. Again, I'm doing 2, so I'm making 2 boxes. I'm making 2 boxes. I'm making 2 boxes. 2 boxes. If I say it enough, I may just remember one of these times. Alright, I've got those glued up, so now after those are dry, I can start the assembly on the rest of the components for the box, but that'll be right after lunch. Okay, the corners are all dry, so now we're ready to assemble the sides first because they're the shortest, and then we'll do the front. So it'll be easier to assemble that way, I believe. Alright, 2 lefts, 2 rights. Alright, here's a look at one of the covers all assembled, aside from the trim and the metal mesh. So I'll cut the miter on these, I'll dry fit them, make sure they fit really good, and then I'll glue these together, and in the meantime I'll go ahead and sand this portion here because this would be in the way and it would be difficult to sand. I'd like to just be able to glue the baseboard onto this without shooting nails through it or behind it, but then I'll go ahead and trim out the inside of these. These are also going to have some trim, that way it'll protrude a little bit out, and then have a nailer for my metal mesh back here. These are some cutouts I had to make for the windows that these will be going over because the radiators are located right beneath some windows. So I had to cut out for the trim on both sides and the baseboard on the bottom, so that way it would sit closer to the wall and there wouldn't be a huge gap all the way around. But you'll see what I'm referring to better when I deliver these. Alright, I've got all the trim attached, I've got the tops attached, I've got everything cut out that I need to. So I'm ready to put the finish on. I'll be using a different finish than I'm used to. I'll be using the Poly Shades by Minwax because it's the only color I found to match the wood trim that they have in their house. These are a couple of my attempts to match it. This is the Poly Shades and it's the closest I could get, and it's really, really close. I didn't plan this, but I'll be using a foam brush and it fits perfectly through all of these little grooves, so I was looking out for my future self, I guess. So I found the best way to apply this is to just pretend you have no wits about you and just get it on there as best as you can before it starts drying, because once it dries just a tiny amount, your working time is over. If you try to go back to that spot, it will not blend in with anything else that you've done. So get it on as fast as humanly possible, and then do your best to just go back and smooth it over, or else you will end up with a splotchy mess. So, in short, just get it on there and smooth it out, or else you are screwed. And it doesn't have to look good right away, but like I said, if it dries, just better luck next time, I guess. That's the advantage of using a new product you've never used before. Okay, so get a good amount on there. And it says to apply thin coats, but I tried that and it looked terrible. So we're not looking at the instructions anymore for the rest of this project. So don't dilly-dally is the moral of the story. It's the next morning and that last coat went terribly. So I've already sanded it down, so that's why it looks a little lighter. But I'm gonna wipe it down with mineral spirits. I'm gonna do another coat, because it does have to be a lot darker than it is right now, and just hope that it darkens up. I may try a different approach and just lay these on the back while I'm doing the front. I'm gonna apply it with a brush this time versus a foam brush and see if that helps. Yeah, hopefully, because that last coat was terrible. So there's a lot of unevenness to figure out. But like I said, it does have to be a lot darker than that, so I'm hoping this coat will even everything out. Alright, another change of plans. I was gonna brush it on, but I'm gonna spray it. The can doesn't say anything about spraying, but I don't see why I can't, because it comes in an aerosol can that you can buy online. So I'm gonna spray it. I don't know what's the worst that could happen. I don't think it could be much worse than what happened yesterday. So we're gonna try to spray it. I'm gonna turn the sprayer way down so that there's just a super fine mist coming out. And if it doesn't go on heavy enough on the first pass, I'll wait a little while and do another pass. But it still needs to be quite a bit darker than this. So I think I have quite a few more coats to do. And then I'm gonna spray the inside while I'm at it. I'll do that first. I'm gonna turn the sprayer so far down it's just a little whisper of stain coming out. It's not gonna be hardly anything. I won't actually record me spraying because I do not actually hate this camera and I like to keep it in good condition. So you won't see me spraying it, but I'll show you the aftermath and you'll see if it was a good or bad idea. Alright, aftermath of spraying, and I should have done that a lot sooner than I did. That's exactly the color I want. It went on super fast. It looks significantly better now versus brushing it on. You can see a difference from definitely the first coat I did to the new one. Really brought out the color that I wanted. It's much more even now. And it'll be a satin finish. It's still wet right now, so it's a little glossy, but I think that's gonna turn out really good. I did say I wasn't gonna read the instructions on the can anymore for the rest of the project, so I should have just sprayed it last night. But I sprayed it today and I'm happy with it now, so looking good. Now we'll do the other one. Alright, I've got my covers sprayed. Now I'm gonna start cutting the metal while I wait for those to dry. I've made some templates that fit on the inside of these openings. I'll just use these to trace onto my metal, then I'll cut the metal with some tin snips. That did not mark at all. Okay, gotta find something else. Here's a preview of how it'll look. Alright, the metal's cut. I just have it sitting in there. I'm going to staple it from the back. And the next thing you'll see are probably me carrying these into the house that they'll be sitting in. Alright, I'm in the house now. I just wanted to show you where the covers were going. One will be covering that radiator over there. And then the other one will be going under or over this radiator here. Alright, I've got the boxes in place. They fit perfectly. I think they flow really well with the current trim that's in here. I've got the fit nice and close to the wall. This is Golden Woodworks and my name is Brent. Thank you for watching Woodworking POV number 4.